Good evening. Welcome to Sports Overtime here in our digital studio, Southeast Sports Plus. Our show airs Monday to Friday, every day from 2 to 4 o'clock. We have some great guests this week as we preview week 2 of the college football season. Here's the best of. What are some misconceptions about the money that's going on in college football right now? And what are some of the things that they have right? Being a guy from your perspective that knows the way that all of this is done at a power school in a power league.
Well, I'm certainly not going to complain about it because I took the job back in March. We're embracing this thing, but I will say some of the changes with the rev share cap that's being put in place for next year, obviously not in place for this year. So this was the last year where teams could just spend however they wanted to spend and chalk it up to fake NIL and get these players paid. So hopefully it'll start to level out across college football, and again that should create more parity. Where you just can't rely on like one rich donor to fund a program where you basically have an owner of a college football program or something like that. So again, hopefully that's, we're going into next year in a capped year, and it's going to come down to who scouts best, who develops the best, who allocates their resources the best. I think that's a place where I think most fans want the sport to be. And hopefully we're only a year away from that.
Jim, out of curiosity, how much are there conversations, as much as you're willing to kind of peel back the curtain, are they about money or are they about things? Because we were at Sunbelt Media Days, and there are a few teams in the Sunbelt who have general managers. And again, I understand that it's not the SEC, but this is a strong group of 6, whatever the number is now, school or conference. And they said, hey, it's not only these money conversations, but they want, 3-bedroom apartments, and they want their dogs shipped across the country, and they want, they want their mom to live in the apartment next door, and they want, like a lawnmower, whatever it is. Like, is that really happening? I mean, I feel like you shoot us pretty straight, so I feel like I have to ask you because you know what's going on.
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that.
Please tell us the wildest thing that you've heard.
A lot of
Please tell us.
There is a lot of families. Yeah, there's a lot of families living in the college town.
Wow.
There's cars, there's cars. There's a lot. Travel expenses for families to away games. Yes. Any perk. I think that, any perk that an agent thinks he can make the deal look more attractive to his client is good for them. So yeah, there's certainly a lot of that going on.
Yeah, I think there was a story today that said $80 million in name, image, and likeness, and I'm talking a little bit of a different realm, a little bit, not from just the school on down, but in NIL deals and these third party companies. $80 million that was approved by the College Sports Commission that came out today. It's a pretty big number, Jim. This is for real.
Yeah, it is for real, and it's a good thing. I'm glad that players are getting compensated. I know, Simone, you would have raked in a lot of NIL money in your hoop days back at Bowling Green.
I was the hometown hero, Jim. I didn't have any stats, but I was a hometown hero. Could have got some free donuts or something.
I mean, but you got that. You would have had that social media following, and that's a big deal in the NIL world. You got to have eyeballs. That's why Arch Manning, is making all that money. He's got all those followers. But no, I think this whole thing is great, where it's got where the players are getting compensated. But again, from what Coach Gundy was probably getting at was just there needs to be a little more of a common ground, a little more level playing field in terms of the competition. And again, I'm at a school that has great resources. So, we have great support here at OU, and we're really one of the most passionate fan bases in the country. So, but I know there's a lot of programs that don't have that. Yeah. And, college football has been built on rivalries, pageantry, tradition. Mm-hmm. I mean, all the reasons that college fans like the college game more than the NFL. I feel like some of that might be in a little bit of jeopardy if some of these programs, if this whole thing isn't level set. You got just bringing up Oregon, you got Oregon and Oregon State. Those two schools in that state have much different resources. And they play that, they have a great rivalry game up there between the Beavers and the Ducks, and you never want to see games like that go away. So again, the closer we can get from a business model standpoint to level the playing field, the better off we'll be.
Who stood out to you there in week 1 as far as the SEC quarterbacks go, knowing how strong and how deep this league is?
I'm going to go with Lenore Sellers, number 1, and it's a little bit Sellers, it's a little bit Nick Harbor at the same time, and they'll work together all year because that's quarterback receiver. I don't mean this to be mean, but guys, Nick Harbor hasn't been able to catch the football.
Yeah.
He's a wide receiver, and his biggest issue has been catching the football. He is a world-class hurdler with better speed than anybody in the country, and that's not even debatable. He's also 6'5", so he can go up over anybody and catch the football. If he has even C+ B- hands, watch out for Nick Harbor. And Lenore Sellers can take over a game. The offensive line didn't have a great day. I thought Mike Shula had a great plan for him with misdirection, quick throws, quarterback runs designed in, read plays, option plays. But Lenore Sellers just showed me, coming off the Clemson game, the bowl game last year, he can still be that guy. They can just will a team to a win at times. But you got Dylan Stewart, who can take over on defense. Now it looks like maybe Nick Harbor. He's got some help around him. That team's going to be dangerous. And then I'll go to John Mateer at Oklahoma. I understand the level of opponent. It was not great.
Sure.
But this is his offense with his offensive coordinator coming from Washington State. And the way he operated that offense with a new cast of characters around him, it looked like he had been doing it for 5 years. It looked comfortable. It looked confident. I mean, the fade on the fourth play of the game that he throws up the sideline with the defender in his face, that might end up being the best throw of the year if you can go find that and watch it. It was unbelievable. So they didn't run the ball the way they wanted to and the way they need to, but that defense is legit. I think they have the best D-line in the SEC. So John Mateer, who if they give Oklahoma an extra gear on offense, watch out for Oklahoma. I had him in the SEC championship game. So I'm just feeling pretty good maybe about my pick there. But
there you go. Okay. I've been listening. Our producer Patrick had LSU on the championship game, and I didn't really know what that would look like. And LSU looks pretty strong there. Cole, I do want to bring up Alabama and what's going on there in Tuscaloosa. What is going on there in Tuscaloosa? Can you tell us?
I think there's a lot going on right now, and that film was bad. It was ugly. There's no two ways around it. There are a couple of individuals that you could point out. Jeremy Bernard right there would be one of them. I think Parker Brailsford at center would be another that you would say. I think Ty Simpson actually played pretty good football. He had pressure in his face. He had defenders running free at him. He didn't have a run game after the first series really to lean on and kind of build upon. He was put in a bad spot with the weather trying to play comeback. I didn't really look at Ty Simpson and say he can't get this done. This is on him. This is his fault. But this is the only way I know how to describe it. For a decade plus, Alabama has won football games by being the enforcer. Now, there have been different times when Nick Saban has added speed or athleticism or different type guys, quarterbacks, what have you. But there has always been an aspect of that team that can punch you in the face, and there's physically nothing you can do about it. And that's why this is so important to me, is that when that defensive tackle strikes and sheds, or that linebacker plays downhill on an offensive lineman, or the safety comes down on a running back who's trying to block him, physically, you're outmanned. There's nothing you can do. That's why we have the spread offense. That's why we have hurry up, no huddle. That's why we have the option. That's why we have the air raid. Because in games like that, you have to have a counter to not being able to deal with the physicality. That was gone. This is the first time in over 10 years I have seen Alabama be the absorber of that type of football for pretty much 4 full quarters. And that's foreign to me in that uniform. So if they don't have that, and I'm still going to say if and maybe. I'm not throwing in the towel on Kalen DeBoer or Ryan Williams or Bama in general. But if that's a reality, I need to know what the other aspects are that you're going to have to go win football games with. Because I don't know if you're just good enough at every other position to say, Ty Simpson, go throw it 40 times and we win. Or offensive line, we're going to lean on you and just run the ball for 300 yards every game. Defensive line, blow up all these plays, therefore we don't have to score 10 points and we'll win. I don't know if the rest of the players are that good to just go do that. They have been in the past at times, but I don't know this year if they have that.
But I wanted to talk about the game, but I'm glad this is a good segue into what I really wanted to ask, which is for you personally. If you just look at your resume, you look at what you've done throughout your career. Of course, last season, your first one there at ULM, a lot of success in with this program in terms of building and where you want them to be. You were great at UAB as interim head coach, leading the Blazers there to the Bahamas Bowl victory. We've seen what's happened to UAB since then. Of course, a long time there at South Alabama as offensive coordinator and assistant. Long-time high school coach here in Alabama. For you personally, to go to Bryant-Denny Stadium to play the Alabama Crimson Tide, and there's going to be a lot of eyes on this game. There already would be, just naturally, because of the fan base and what this conference means, what the Crimson Tide means to the fans. But for you personally, how good does this feel? How excited are you? Do you have like a little bit of a, I don't know, are there nerves with this a little bit?
There's no nerves. I'll be honest with you. I'm excited. You know, I think our kids we know what we're up against. We're going to be tough. We're going to be disciplined. We're going to play hard. We're never going to let up. We're never going to get down. And But if you go back and you just look for it full circle, and coming into the state of Alabama, I guess at 23 years old, my first job at Charles Henderson, I went to West Alabama, but you go from a position coach, at a high school coach that you really didn't know anybody. You moved from the state of Kentucky, and then you work up to a coordinator, for 8 years, and then you become a high school head coach in the state of Alabama. And you've always, just like a lot of high school coaches, you wanted that chance and you wanted that opportunity. And there's so many great high school coaches in the state of Alabama. I mean, it's amazing of the quality of coaches in that state at the high school level. And just to get the opportunity to be a coordinator, much less, a coordinator, and then go to UAB and be the interim and really turn that program into a group of 5 powerhouse, top 5 with Bill Clark. But now to be able to come full circle and lead a team into Bryant Denny it's kind of one of those moments where if you just put your head down and you persevere and you're really passionate and you really aren't willing to give up and you got a lot of grit about yourself, then it just proves that things can be done and mountains can be climbed. Obviously, this is a big mountain this Saturday on top of it, but it's about the journey and it's about how we got here. And now what are we going to do once we're here?
Coming up next on Sports Overtime, more from the best of Southeast Sports Plus.
When you look at college football, every game counts. I think that's what makes us different is, every regular season game matters. So when you only have 12 guaranteed opportunities, everyone is vital and critical. And this is the next one on our schedule, and it's big, but they understand what this game represents and what it's about.
Coach, I'm some of the memorabilia there in your office, representative of your time in the SEC. Of course, Nick Saban in the game between Alabama and Clemson. When you think back to your time in the league, how special? Of course, the SEC is special. We all know that. But from just the standpoint of what this conference brings to the sport. And I see you shaking your head. Knoxville, you were there at Tennessee. I mean, there were some really great moments, and then there was a great moment when you went back there and you won in a different color, and that was, a historic moment. I just remember so vividly. What did that feel like, and what was it like to coach in this league and to now be going up against a team in this league in Arkansas and Sam Pittman?
Well, I think, the SEC motto, it just means more, and it really does just mean more. And you really don't understand unless you played or coached in that league. And every single day it's 4th and 1 for the national championship, and anyone and everyone is good. And I think that's the thing is you're playing against the best of the best each and every year and each and every game. And so I think you just look at last week in the SEC and you look at it and it's just a whole different speed level. It's a different size level. And that's when I look at this Arkansas team is they've really built it for SEC play. When you look at it, for us, it's hard to simulate not only the speed of the game, but the size of the game. We have to work on blocking a 370-pound nose guard. We don't have a 370-pound player in our program. So, you're looking at someone who's, has great gratitude towards being 8 years in the SEC. It's a challenge each and every day. I think all you have to do is watch the SEC Netflix and you kind of see the daily stresses that go through the life of a head coach. But I wouldn't change it. I love my 8 years, and my goal is maybe one day to get back to the Southeastern Conference. And then, when you have the ability to go to Tuscaloosa and spend 3 years with Nick Saban and obviously a year and a half and a special assistant to the head coach role, I wouldn't trade those years, particularly that year and a half, just being behind the scenes. And we always talked about the Bama way, but there's a lot of things when other coaches go be head coaches, they just do it. And you ask them, well, why are you doing it? Well, that's what we did at Bama. I was able to understand the whys of how we did it, how we did things. And then, obviously just a tremendous amount of respect. And I know what this weekend's all about.
What do you make of where Alabama is right now as they look to pick up the pieces?
Yeah, I think I'll start with the fact that 21 is the lowest they've been ranked in the AP poll in 21 years is, or 19 years, this is the lowest they've been ranked is impressive in itself. I know that's not what Alabama fans want to hear, but it's always nice to take a step back and realize what Nick Saban did for this program. But yeah, I did not really expect, and I don't think I'm alone here, to be coming on here and talking about Alabama not only losing, but losing in the way that they did.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you see it on your screen right here, 230 rushing yards allowed for Florida State, or allowed by Alabama against Florida State, which is enough to probably make most of your viewers down there that are watching you guys every day puke all over the screen. And it was not only that, it was just the way kind of, and again, you talk about the Nick Saban years, and you try not to compare it because, again, you can't compare these eras. But when Alabama walked onto the field, it was, we're going to beat you up. You know, other teams, you know, they're scared of us. We're going to beat you at the line of scrimmage. And that was just not there on either side of the ball all afternoon. And it ends up like we just saw on the screen, Florida State kind of runs all over Alabama. Tommy Castellanos puts his money where his mouth is and then some. I mean, and I saw Alabama fans pretty upset with him doing those NIL shirts, which I'm all for it. You do what you need to do to make the money. I don't think Alabama fans were too upset when Milroe and those guys were selling Lank shirts. So again, kind of a very, very unexpected result. A lot of national analysts picked Alabama to win the national championship, who have been around the facility in the offseason, and just overall, I think big picture is just shocking.
Yeah, I mean, he did kind of make those shirts, but he also did win the game. So therefore, you can talk all you want. But going back to what Gerhard and I talked about last week and this game, FSU versus Bama, it felt like both teams needed a win to like silence the doubters. Now that Bama lost, and by the margin that they did and how they lost, is there a concern for Kalen DeBoer after week one?
I think the easy answer is yes, because again, these Alabama fans, Kalen DeBoer's 5-5 in his last 10. You and I and Gerhard, we talked about during SEC Media Days, and it was a big question brought up. What is it going to be like on the road? Because we saw Alabama struggle last fall. Alabama gets a prime opportunity. And like you said, there was a sense that it was kind of a must-win in a sense for both programs. Obviously, Florida State comes out on top. I don't think Kalen DeBoer is in danger of losing his job just yet. The other side of it is, you have UL Monroe come into town, and I kind of posed this question with some friends and some people on our board. What is Alabama going to show this week that's going to make you say, okay, we're ready to go? Because, like you said, it's UL Monroe, it's a lesser opponent, and Alabama should take care of business. Even if Alabama does win 60-0, there's still going to be those same question marks going into a bigger opponent at home against Wisconsin. So, again, it's a little bit unexpected having these conversations, but I don't quite think, if you get into the numbers wise, I don't think Kalen DeBoer is quite on the hot seat just yet, but we have seen how quickly things can change.
Coming up next on Sports Overtime, more from the best of Southeast Sports Plus.
I think Lenore Sellers, obviously one of the guys that everyone has their eyes on right now. What did you take away from his performance as we look at the numbers here and what he was able to do in Game 1 against Virginia Tech?
Yeah, well, like I said, a little bit of a slow start. And not initially, right? He came out the gates and they went in for a touchdown basically immediately on the very first drive. And we saw the kind of team that they can be. Things definitely slowed in the middle of the game. Shane Beamer is saying, it was a great start. It was a great finish. A little ugly in between, as we saw. But Sellers, once he definitely found his groove and got things going, he showed the potential that he has to be both a passing quarterback and a rushing quarterback. A lot of people said that he can't throw accurately or, questioned his ability to do so. And he definitely showed what he's capable of with that 64-yard bomb to Nick Harbor.
What I found the most interesting was special teams, because we talked about going into it, just how much special teams meant to his father, Frank Beamer, there at Virginia Tech. And they played a little ball there in the dome and got a big touchdown. In my opinion, that kind of swung the game there. How important was the special teams there in that matchup?
Well, like you said, it swung the game. The momentum had definitely slowed on both sides of the ball for both teams. And once that punt return happened, everything changed, especially for the South Carolina sideline, who just gained the energy that they needed to close out the game. Shane Beamer saying that if he could have scripted it, that's exactly how he would have scripted it, in front of his dad, in front of the team that his dad, made Beamer ball famous to have that kind of play. It definitely was kind of a storybook finish to the game for them, and to see the Beamer family just embrace that moment and kind of feel the joy in that moment, it was incredible to see.
Thank you so much for watching Sports Overtime here on WKRG. Remember, you can watch Southeast Sports Plus Monday to Friday, 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock on your free WKRG Plus app. Catch us on your Roku, Fire TV, or Apple TV device. Good night.